On the day of the college entrance exam, just as my childhood friend and I caught the last shuttle bus for the exam, I discovered that one of the parents on board was a fugitive murderer. I knew he would impulsively kill, but I remained calm and got off the car alone, because in my previous life, I decisively urged my childhood friend and best friend to get off the car, but they said I had a persecution complex. And others cursed me for being unlucky. I had no choice but to threaten my childhood friend with my life to force him off the car, but my best friend insisted on staying, and in the end, she and everyone else in the car were taken to the wilderness and brutally dismembered. My childhood friend and I dashed into the exam hall just before the deadline. On the surface, he was grateful that I had saved him, but on the day the results were released, he tied me up in front of my best friend's grave and poured a bucket of sulfuric acid over my head. Why didn't you insist on letting Xiao Jin get off the bus? It was you who caused her tragic death. You don't deserve to live in this world. I was tortured to death by him, and when I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day we all boarded the bus together. When I regained consciousness, Jiang Jingyi was pushing me to the back as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He placed his schoolbag next to Xia Jin in the front, and 2 meters further ahead by the rear door sat Su Hao's father. Last night, I learned from my police officer uncle that Su Hao's father had killed the homeroom teacher of the neighboring class, and a formal warrant for his arrest would be issued today. Before I could snap out of my shock and fear, Jiang Jingyi's voice, filled with disgust, rang out first. Xiao Jin has been feeling uneasy as the exams approach, so she just wanted me to chat with her to ease her tension. Xiao Wanchu, you usually call yourself her best friend, so how come you can't even understand such a small thing now? Xia Jin leaned forward from the front seat, her smile exactly the same as in her past life. Wanchu, I didn't mean to steal your Jingyi, but I'm so nervous today that I can hardly breathe. If I don't talk to someone, I'll feel like I'm suffocating. Please, just let me have Jingyi for half an hour, okay? She clasped her hands together and rubbed them, her soft and adorable appearance making Jiang Jingyi smile helplessly as he spoke. What do you mean, your Jingyi? We're just familiar because our elders know each other, so we often hang out. Actually, we're just ordinary friends. Don't overthink it. After saying that, he glanced at me coldly, as if urging me to quickly agree with his words. I sneered inwardly. He clearly said he liked me since we were kids, wrote me no less than 100 love letters, and we were already recognized as a campus couple. Now he says we're just ordinary friends. Before I introduced Xia Jin to him, he would stick by my side every day, begging me to marry him once I came of age, but after Xia Jin appeared, his attention shifted. He went from clinging to me to enjoying Xia Jin clinging to him, and even started to resent me in return. Seeing their faces again in this new life, I finally realized how ridiculous I had been. Meeting Jiang Jingyi's completely emotionless gaze, I simply picked up my bag. Feel free to chat, I'll take a taxi. Jiang Jingyi didn't expect me to let it go so easily, looking puzzled, when Xia Jin suddenly exclaimed, Wanchu, are you mad at me? It's all my fault. The seemingly calm gaze by the car door turned toward me, and I forced myself to walk confidently with big strides. Just as I was about to take the last step, the strap of my backpack was suddenly grabbed. As I stumbled, the car door closed, and the driver's announcement echoed throughout the carriage. All examinees and parents, please remain seated. We will continue to the next stop. The front door is malfunctioning. Please use the rear door for boarding. And alighting, my breathing instantly became erratic. I tried my best to avoid making eye contact with Su Hao's father, and cold sweat broke out on my forehead. The hand behind me exerted force, turning me around to face the sobbing Xia Jin. What are you making a fuss about? What you just said will put so much pressure on Xia Jin. Don't you know what an important day today is? What if it affects her college entrance exam? Apologize. Xia Jin, with reddened eyes, tugged at his sleeve. Forget it, Jingyi, it really is my fault. Wanchu likes you so much, it's only natural she dislikes me. Jiang Jingyi grew even more distressed, turning to me with a furious rebuke. Can you really not stand to see us happy? You're always targeting Xiao Jin, and this morning you even pretended you couldn't find your exam admission ticket, forcing us to rush for the last bus. I frowned and looked at Xia Jin. Is that what you told him? This morning, I had originally planned to take a taxi myself, but she insisted on going with me and asked me to wait for her. But when I rushed to her house, she claimed she couldn't find her exam admission ticket and insisted on waiting until Jiang Jingyi came to find us. Only then did she slowly take the ticket out from the drawer. In my previous life, I thought she was just too nervous and forgot, but now I know she was deliberately trying to ruin my image in Jiang Jingyi's eyes. I tightened my grip on my backpack strap and saw Xia Jin wiping the tears from her cheeks with the back of her hand. She nodded and said, "Wan Chu, we don't blame you, but next time, remember to prepare all your documents in advance." Jiang Jingyi raised his chin and said, "Xiao Jin says she doesn't blame you, but you must apologize to her and promise not to put pressure on her again in the future. Next time." Later, I sneered coldly, sitting in the first row behind the car door for easy exit. "No need for next time or later. I guarantee I won't bother you again this time." "You better." Jiang Jingyi no longer looked at me, sitting next to Xia Jin and handing her a box of milk. Xia Jin blushed shyly, lowered her head and rummaged through her bag as well, suddenly changing her expression. Then she stood up abruptly, pointing at me and shouting, "Wan Chu, how could you snatch the talisman I was going to give to Jingyi?" "Too," she shouted urgently, rushing past Jiang Jingyi to grab my backpack. I instinctively tightened my grip on my backpack, but as soon as she touched me, she lost her balance and fell backward, hitting the back of her head on the steps behind. The students and parents in the back of the car were startled and quickly rushed to help her. Jiang Jingyi was especially frantic, supporting her as he touched the back of her head and asked, "Does it hurt?" Xia Jin, with tears in her eyes, shook her head. "It doesn't hurt, but the protective charm I personally went to the temple to get for you is gone." "Jingyi, what should I do? Could this be a bad omen?" Jiang Jingyi helped her to her seat, then turned and forcefully extended his hand toward me. "Give the protective charm back to Xiao Jin." The gazes of everyone around were fixed on me. I could feel Su Hao's father looking at me too, and I couldn't help but break out in goosebumps. But there were still a few minutes until the next stop, so I couldn't make any rash moves. Thinking this, I hugged my backpack tightly. "I don't know anything about a protective charm." Xia Jin shook her head with tears streaming down her face. "Impossible. I secretly showed it to you this morning, and then it disappeared. Wan Chu, I know you've never liked me, and it was me who insisted on being your best friend, but the amulet contains my best wishes for Jingyi. You can't take it away." Jiang Jingyi narrowed his eyes with even more disgust. "Give it back to her." I gritted my teeth and looked straight into his eyes. "If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. I've never heard of it or seen it." Everyone on the bus was watching us, and the student's parent sighed. "Classmate, no matter what, this is the college entrance exam. One small mistake and you might not get into your ideal university. Don't be stubborn, just give it back to them." "That's right, classmate, when it comes to things like lucky charms, it's better to believe they exist than to dismiss them entirely." Xia Jin shot me a smug look from her seat, but when she spoke, her voice was soft and fragile. "Wan Chu, I never blamed you before for taking so many of my things in private, but this one, please, can you give it back to me? Your family is so wealthy, you can buy anything, you don't lack this." A boy whistled. "With all that money, you still steal. With that kind of character, can you even get into college?" Jiang Jingyi's expression grew even uglier, and when he spoke, there was a hint of gritted anger. "I should have known better than to let you ride the bus with us. It would have been better to let you take a taxi by yourself." The bus stopped, and I stood up, my face cold. "Then I'll get off now, so I don't get in your way here." But I hadn't taken more than a few steps when Xia Jin's panicked cry reached my ears. "Wait, my exam admission ticket is gone too." By then, I had already reached the door, only to be grabbed by the back of my collar once again by Jiang Jingyi. "Xiao Jin can't take the exam without her admission ticket. How could you be so malicious? Don't run. Hand over the admission ticket and the protective charm." All the students waiting at this stop have boarded. Seeing the door about to close, I hurriedly turned back and shouted, "I never touched her things. Let go of me. I need to get off." Jiang Jingyi's eyes grew more sinister as he grabbed me and forcefully pulled me back. "Still stubborn, empty everything in your bag onto the ground. Let me go." Gritting my teeth, I mustered all my strength to break free and strode toward the door. Suddenly, an arm appeared in front of me, blocking my way. The moment I recognized the color of the sleeve, the door closed. "All examinees and parents, please take your seats. We will continue to the next stop." The sleeve of that arm was slightly rolled up, revealing a fierce tattoo on the wrist. In an instant, my hair stood on end, and I trembled as I turned my head, meeting the face of Su Hao's father, who wore a half-smile. "Classmate, is your family really that wealthy?" 3. I hadn't even spoken when Xia Jin cut me off. "Yes, Uncle, Wan Chu's family is really wealthy. Her father owns the largest stationery factory in our area." Someone behind me exclaimed in surprise. "So you're the only daughter of the Xiao family, but if your family is so rich, why would you take someone else's things?" this is really embarrassing for Mr. Xiao. The greed in Su Hao's father's eyes sent a shiver down my spine. In my previous life, as soon as I recognized him, I quietly warned everyone about the danger and urged them to get off the bus, but no one believed me. They all said I had a persecution complex. I was pointed at by thousands and nearly discovered by Su Hao's father, so I could only throw a tantrum and drag Jiang Jingyi out of the car. When I turned back to pull Xia Jin, she glared at me with resentment, forcing Jiang Jingyi to choose between us, but before he could make a choice, the car door closed. Later, I saw the tragic deaths of everyone in that car in a video. Everyone was covered in countless stab wounds, and all the candidates, regardless of gender, had vicious knife scars on their faces. Some parents had their arms severed, while others were dismembered on the spot. I provided clues to my uncle, and Su Hao's father was quickly apprehended. I also saw his photo being interrogated in the news. Those cold-blooded, arrogant eyes were exactly the same as they are now. My back was soaked in cold sweat. I forced myself to turn my head, only to see Jiang Jingyi's gaze fixed on my backpack. Xiao Wanchu, give me the backpack. Feeling that Su Hao's father was still staring at me, I bit my lip and, in a fit of desperation, threw the backpack over. Since you don't believe me, then you can search it yourself. Jiang Jingyi unzipped the backpack and, with a cold expression, dumped everything inside onto the floor. Inside the backpack, there was only a review book and a transparent folder I had prepared for the college entrance exams. He carefully checked all the pockets and compartments of the backpack but found nothing. Finally turning his gaze to that document folder, before he could open it, I spoke up, Jiang Jingyi, if her Lucky Charm admission ticket isn't in there, you must apologize to me. Xia Jin bit her lip with tears in her eyes, but Jiang Jingyi shook his head dismissively. We grew up together. I know exactly what kind of person you are. You must be jealous that Xia Jin studies better than you, so you deliberately stole her admission ticket. He spoke with such conviction that Xia Jin also gained momentum. No wonder you insisted on getting out of the car. You just wanted to take the chance to throw away my exam admission ticket so I couldn't take the test. The people around grew furious, all pointing at me and cursing. I clenched my fists, without even looking. You're already wronging me like this. Jiang Jingyi glared at me fiercely, then lowered his head to open the file bag, but the things inside were prepared by me last night according to the college entrance exam requirements. This morning, Xia Jin offered to help me carry them, but I didn't agree just in case, so there's no way her things are in there. As he flipped through, Jiang Jingyi's face darkened. It's impossible that there's nothing in your pocket. I only have 2 pant pockets, and I turned them both inside out to show him. He frowned suspiciously and looked back at Xia Jinsher, only to find that she had cried until her face was deathly pale. How could it not be there? She clearly took my bag this morning. Jing. Am I not allowed to take the exam anymore? But I really want to go to the same university as you. Jiang Jingyi immediately composed himself again and held out his hand to me. You have a habit of putting important things in your phone case. Give me your phone. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly tightened my grip on the phone. I'll give you the phone case, but not the phone, Xia Jin shouted. She's so nervous. It must be behind the phone case. Upon hearing this, Jiang Jingyi immediately lunged forward. I fought back with all my might but was still pushed down, and my phone was snatched away. I hurriedly grabbed onto a pillar to stand up when a cold, large hand suddenly gripped my arm. Su Hao's father's deep voice sounded in my ear. Classmate, let me help you up. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would leap out of my throat. I shook my head vigorously, not daring to look, and tried to pull my arm away, but he tightened his grip, as if deliberately trying to keep me from leaving. My breathing grew more and more rapid, and cold sweat dripped from my forehead. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xia Jin snatch my phone and unlock it. The next second, she screamed. Xiao Wanchu sent a WeChat to his uncle saying there's a fugitive murderer on our bus. For time seemed to stand still. Jiang Jingyi took my phone, and Xia Jin, like everyone else, was scrutinizing the people in the car. Even the driver in front frowned and glanced back through the rearview mirror. Everyone's eyes held panic and confusion, but I was the only one so tense I could hardly breathe. My gaze slowly drifted downward, finally settling on the fingernails digging into my skin. A terrifying panting sound brushed against my neck, rising and falling in sync with the mocking laughter of the male parent in the front seat. This young girl isn't very old, yet she's already developed such severe paranoia. A single sentence put everyone in the car at ease. The old man said, exactly, we're all here to take our kids to the college entrance exam. Both the kids and parents are focused on today's most important test, How could there possibly be a murderer beside me? Suhao's father also whispered, "That's right, classmate, how could there be a murderer on the bus?" I clenched my back teeth to keep myself from trembling. When I spoke, my voice was hoarse. I was just gathering material for my uncle. He writes murder mystery scripts. Xia Jin let out a sigh of relief, then frowned again. "Wanchu, you're not using this as an excuse to stall for time, are you?" Jiang Jingyi snapped back to reality, his face cold as he took back his phone. As he spoke, he opened the phone case. "You went too far today. After the exam, I'm definitely telling your parents. They won't let you off easy. Wait, where is it?" He stared blankly at the empty phone case, and I immediately mustered all my strength to pull my arm free and rush over. "Now can you see I didn't take it? Give it back to me." Finally grabbing my phone back, I bent down to put my things into my backpack. The next stop is in 3 minutes, and this is my last chance. According to Suhao's father's account from the previous life, he hijacked the driver to change direction at the stop before the exam site, and only started taking action after the bus drove into a remote alley. And the next stop is the second to last stop. I must get off. Holding my backpack tightly, I simply stood by the door, keeping a meter's distance from Suhao's father, Jiang Jingyi, who was behind me. Thought for a moment before turning back to ask, "Xiao Jin, why don't you think again? Could it have been left somewhere, maybe at home?" "No, I checked before I left, and it was in my backpack. From the moment I left home until I got in the car, only Wanchu touched my backpack, so the exam admission ticket and the protective charm must be in the car." As she spoke, tears fell, and Jiang Jingyi's heart softened again. He reached out and grabbed my sleeve. "Take off your jacket, I need to check." I looked at him in disbelief. "Jiang Jingyi, are you crazy? There are so many people on the bus. Do you want to ruin my reputation in public? If you don't hand over the exam admission ticket, you'll ruin Xiao Jin's entire life." He gritted his teeth and spat out the words, ignoring my refusal as he directly took off my school uniform jacket, revealing the short-sleeved t-shirt I was wearing underneath. After patting down the coat from top to bottom, he narrowed his eyes coldly. Could it be in the pants, or maybe in the underwear? Xia Jin's shout attracted a few eager male parents and students, who rushed forward and pinned me down. The leader simply pulled open the collar of my t-shirt to look inside. "Let go of me, help, don't touch me." My roar only made them more excited. I gritted my teeth, clutching my chest, my feet kicking wildly outside the crowd. Jiang Jingyi watched all of this coldly, while Xia Jin blinked her eyes, as if taunting me. "Now, Jingyi belongs to me completely." The surrounding examinees were all bowing their heads, reviewing their questions. Some parents excitedly recorded videos, while others paid no attention, only concerned about whether their own children were thirsty. In the rearview mirror ahead, the driver was also looking back as if watching a spectacle. None of them wanted to save me. Exactly the same as in the previous life, my heart grew increasingly desperate, and my cries for help gradually weakened, until a boy said disappointedly, "How boring, only developing this much by senior year of high school. No wonder the guy you like is interested in someone else, who would want to look at someone like you. Let's go, no gossip and no admission ticket. This is so boring." The hands pressing down on me all withdrew, and I could no longer hold back my tears. Through my tear-blurred vision, I saw Jiang Jingyi embrace the anxious and crying Xia Jin, softly comforting her. "Don't worry, we'll find it." The bus arrived at the second-to-last stop. I wiped my tears fiercely, grabbed my coat, leaned against the pillar farthest from Suhao's father, and ran off the bus with big strides. Suddenly, a hand from behind touched my coat. Without stopping, I let go immediately, leaving the coat on the bus. Even after my feet touched the ground, my heart continued to race, but I didn't look back. Instead, I ran frantically in the opposite direction. In the car, Xia Jin peeked out from Jiang Jingyi's embrace and saw my disheveled figure running away through the glass. She wanted to laugh but held back, pretending to be concerned as she said, "Why is Wanchu running that way? Could it be that she doesn't want to take the college entrance exam?" As soon as she finished speaking, the car door closed. "All examinees and parents, please take your seats. We will continue to the next stop, Haoyuan South Station." Suhao's father, sitting by the back door, was also looking at me when suddenly his eyes darkened. Abruptly, he stood up, walked over to the driver, pulled a sharp knife from his waist and pressed it against the driver's neck, while in his other hand appeared a gun. The gun was pointed at all the passengers inside the car. "Turn left at the intersection ahead. If any of you dare to call the police, I'll kill you first." 5. In the rearview mirror, the driver's face had turned pale. The whole bus was startled, and everyone near the driver rushed to the back, amid the chaos. Jiang Jingyi and Xia Jin were pushed together, and they heard someone whisper, "What that female classmate said earlier was true, there really is a murderer." Another person also lowered their voice, "What's the use of knowing now, call the police quickly." But soon, those squatting on the ground and secretly making phone calls panicked. "Why is there no signal? I don't have a signal either." The situation grew increasingly chaotic. Jiang Jingyi hurriedly took out his phone to check and indeed found no signal. Su Hao's father, who was holding the driver hostage in the front, cast a cold glance back, his tone tinged with a hint of madness. "I've already blocked all signals on this bus. None of you can escape. Heaven let me board this bus, giving me this chance. Today, all of you will be buried with my Su Hao." The dozen or so people behind were terrified. Students who had been escorted by their parents clung to their embrace, while those who boarded alone could only huddle into a ball. In Jiang Jingyi's arms, Xia Jin trembled like a leaf. She clung tightly to his waist, her eyes darting anxiously ahead. "Jingyi, what should we do? Think of something quickly. I don't want to die." "Don't be afraid, Xia Jin, everything will be fine. Jiang Jingyi managed only a few words before falling silent. "No matter how he acts, he's just a high school senior. He might have some presence among his peers, but in front of a knife-wielding murderer, he's just a paper tiger." Suddenly, Su Hao's father's gun barrel wavered. "You're having quite a lively chat back there. Do you not take me seriously?" They immediately fell silent, not daring to make a sound. Su Hao's father looked at the driver with satisfaction. "Ahead, turn right again." The driver's voice trembled. "The alley to the right is very narrow. Once we go in, we might not be able to get out. Turn right. Stop with all the nonsense." Su Hao's father roared angrily, then gritted his teeth and actually stabbed the driver in the side with a knife. A piercing scream echoed inside the car as it swerved wildly. Several girls and Xia Jin could no longer hold back their screams. Su Hao's father grabbed the steering wheel and shouted impatiently at the back, "Shut up, it's too noisy." A vicious voice mixed with the crackle of static, and Xia Jin trembled even more violently. Suddenly, she broke down, pushing Jiang Jingyi away, pulling open the car window, and preparing to jump out. "Xiao Jin, no, you'll fall to your death. Let go of me, I'd rather die from the fall than die here." Jiang Jingyi wrapped his arms around her waist and shouted to the side, "What are you all staring at? Come and help." But just like at every stop before, the people on the bus were lost in their own fears, and no one cared whether she lived or died. Jiang Jingyi was momentarily dazed, but the wind howling past outside the window snapped him back to reality, and he pulled her back with force. Just as he helped her steady herself, 2 items suddenly fell from Xia Jin's pants pocket. On the folded exam admission ticket, the name, Xia Jin, was clearly written. Beside it was a talisman stained with black pigment. "This is." Xia Jin was still crying, but Jiang Jingyi suddenly remembered the message I had sent to my uncle on my phone. "Xiao Wanchu, her uncle is a police officer, so she knew there was a murderer on the bus from the start, and yet I treated her like that." His voice was so soft that only he could hear it. By the end, he suddenly noticed everyone around him staring out the window in horror. Jiang Jingyi followed their gaze and was shocked to see that the bus had already turned into a dead-end alley. The walls on either side were only a fist's width away from the windows. Even if they climbed out, there was no way to escape. The driver in front had lost too much blood and passed out, no longer moving. Meanwhile, Su Hao's father held up the gun, a sinister smile on his face as he slowly walked toward the back of the vehicle. In his other hand, the tip of the knife was dripping with blood. "Now, it's your turn." 6. I took a taxi to the exam site shortly after, running in the opposite direction. Just as I got out of the car, my parents called. "Wanchu, where are you? Your uncle said there's a murderer on your exam shuttle bus, and he even bought a gun from the black market." Tears streamed down my face as I choked out, "Mom, Dad, I've already escaped." "That's good. You nearly scared us to death while we were abroad. Is Jing Yi with you?" His parents said they couldn't get in touch with him and are really worried. I bit my lip. "He and Xia Jin are both in the car." My parents were shocked. "Your best friend Xia Jin, when did they?" "Wanchu, in short, I'm just glad you're okay. Thanks to the distress message you sent to your uncle, they've already located the bus and are organizing a rescue. Don't worry, Jingyi will be fine." The painful image from my past life flashed before my eyes. Jiang Jingyi tying me up in front of Xia Jin's grave and pouring sulfuric acid over my head, causing a sharp pang of agony in my heart. In my previous life, I genuinely wanted to save them. which is why I immediately sent a message to my uncle for help after getting in the car, including our location, and desperately tried to persuade them to get out, only to end up with such a fate. In this life, I wanted to stay away from them, yet I was publicly humiliated. I still don't understand how over a decade of childhood friendship could be overshadowed by just a few words from Xia Jin. Mom, Dad, I need to go in for the exam now. Alright, you go ahead and relax. Mom and Dad will buy tickets to return home right away. If we had known it would turn out like this, we would have insisted on coming back to accompany you through the college entrance exam. With my phone turned off, I entered the examination hall. Although the incident in the car that morning had affected my mindset, I managed to focus on answering the questions within the first 10 minutes of the exam. When I left the exam hall in the afternoon, my parents were already waiting for me outside the school. Before I could speak, my mother quickly said, "Wanchu, don't be afraid, Jingyi and Xia Jin have both been rescued." But she hesitated, and my father continued, "Jingyi was stabbed twice in the stomach and has just been revived. Your best friend has several cuts on her face and is terrified." Talking nonsense. Her parents are planning to send her for psychological counseling, but at least both of them are still alive. While several other passengers died, Mom poked his arm. "Don't scare the child," I interrupted them. "Was Su Hao's father arrested?" "He was. There was surveillance in the bus, so he couldn't deny it." "Mom, Dad, I want to see the surveillance footage." My parents took me to the police station, and my uncle, considering I was the one who initially reported the case, opened the surveillance footage for me to watch. When they saw me being bullied in public, my parents could no longer sit still and angrily cursed Jiang Jingyi, and I thought this kid was outstanding. Never imagined he'd dare treat my daughter like this. No way. The Jiang family must apologize to Wanchu. My parents stormed out in righteous anger, leaving me alone behind. After seeing Xia Jin's own exam admission ticket and protective talisman fall out of her pocket, I clenched my pants tightly and gritted my teeth. In the surveillance footage, when Su Hao's father was holding a knife and walking toward the back of the car, someone asked him, "I don't even know you, why are you doing this to me?" He raised his hand and wiped his cheek with the back of it, leaving a bright red streak on his face. When he spoke, his voice was filled with resentment and bitterness. "Some of you were even my son's classmates, but you never cared about him." A boy who had once torn off my clothes said, "Didn't Su Hao take a month off because he wasn't feeling well?" "That's the homeroom teacher talking nonsense. My son was bullied by you and jumped to his death a month ago, but the school said the situation was special before the college entrance exam and asked me to pretend nothing happened. My son is gone, how can I pretend nothing happened?" So, Su Hao's father suddenly paused, a smile curling at the corner of his mouth. "I killed your homeroom teacher and also took 1,000,000 yuan from her home safe. To be honest, the police are looking for me. I originally planned to take this bus to cover my tracks and run when we reach the exam site, but at the last stop, there's my son's favorite basketball court, so I decided on the spot to kill you all to keep him company." Su Hao's father grew more and more agitated as he spoke, and Su Hao's classmates, who were also present, trembled with fear. Xia Jin's face turned deathly pale. Whether it was the word police that triggered her or not, she suddenly lost control and shouted, "Xiao Wanchu's uncle is a police officer. She must have gotten off the bus to call the police." Jiang Jingyi hurriedly covered her mouth, but it was already too late. Su Hao's father frowned, realizing he needed to act quickly, so he strode over and pulled Xia Jin away. She turned back in a panic and shouted, "Jingyi, save me." But Jiang Jingyi gritted his teeth, his eyes filled with disgust and hatred. "If you hadn't falsely accused Wanchu of stealing your exam ticket, she wouldn't have gotten off the car and left me behind. You deserve this." 7. The scene that followed was too gruesome. I only dared to glance at it briefly. Su Hao's father slashed a few cuts on Xia Jin's face. In the excruciating pain, she screamed until her voice went hoarse, but no one came to her rescue. By the time he let go, Xia Jin had already lost her sanity. Su Hao's father, holding a blood-stained knife, stabbed Su Hao's classmate to death and injured several parents. He then indiscriminately stabbed several more people, with Jiang Jingyi being the last one targeted. "Classmate, I have to thank you for having such a tense relationship with Xiao Wanchu. Otherwise, she might have taken all of you off the bus. Then I wouldn't have had any fun, would I?" Jiang Jingyi's lower abdomen was bleeding, and his last words before closing his eyes were a faint murmur. Faintly, a few words could be made out. "I'm sorry." A few days later, Jiang Jingyi finally regained consciousness. I didn't want to see him at first, but he insisted on meeting me, refusing treatment otherwise his parents had no choice but to come to me, even going so far as to kneel, so I had no choice but to agree. In the hospital room, he sat up excitedly as soon as he saw me. Wanchu, you finally came to see me. I knew you would forgive me, right? I smiled softly. What makes you think I would forgive you? He was taken aback, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes, and he quickly said, I'm sorry, Wanchu, it's all my fault. I was wrong to trust Xia Jin. Her exam admission ticket and protective charm weren't lost at all. She deliberately framed you. Jiang Jingyi covered the wound on his stomach with one hand and stretched the other straight toward me. I calmly watched as a blood blister swelled at the needle insertion point on the back of his hand. If it were before, seeing him like this would have made me worry to the point of tears, wishing I could suffer in his place. But now, seeing him so weak that he can only rely on and for to maintain his vital signs, I actually feel a sense of relief in my heart. Jiang Jingyi, don't you think it's too late to say sorry now? My parents named me Wanchu because they felt they met too late, but I wish I had never met you, then I wouldn't have suffered so much humiliation. Jiang Jingyi's lips trembled as he shook his head vigorously. No, Wanchu, I've liked you since we were kids, you can't abandon me, we promised to get married when we grew up. I sneered. Is this how you show your affection? By not trusting me, rummaging through my backpack, and letting other boys bully me? I thought you liked her instead. I clapped my hands, and Xia Jin was pushed inside. Before entering, she was still acting wildly, but as soon as she saw me, she screamed and covered her scarred face. Xiao Wanchu, it's you who did this to me. In her brief moment of clarity, the first thing she thought of was to curse me. I crossed my arms. You were the one who wronged me first. She glared at me with resentment. That's only because you always act so superior. Why do you get to be rich and good at studying? It's not fair. I wasn't as lucky as you to be born into a wealthy family, so I must take Jiang Jingyi away from you. I curled my lips into a smile. Do you think you've taken him away, you wretched woman, still flaunting your power in front of me? If it weren't for that damned murderer, would have succeeded for sure. Jiang Jingyi spoke up. Shut up, you have no right to talk about her. Xia Jin finally noticed him, her screams growing even more shrill. Jiang Jingyi, why didn't you save me? You just stood by and watched as my face was ruined, and you did nothing to help me. He glared coldly. I told you, you brought this upon yourself. If you hadn't falsely accused Wanchu, she wouldn't have gotten out of the car alone. Otherwise, with our childhood friendship, she would definitely save me. I stood by the wall, wanting to say that I tried to save you in my past life, but not in this one. But the words that came out were, well, if she weren't here, I would definitely save you. So you wouldn't miss the college entrance exam, did you know? You predicted many of this year's college entrance exam questions. If you had taken the exam, you could have chosen any top university in the country. 8. Jiang Jingyi's eyes instantly turned red with anger. He pulled out the 4-needle himself, rushed off the bed, and grabbed Xia Jin's hair. You made me miss the college entrance exam. You've ruined my entire life. Xia Jin was not to be outdone, kicking him in the stomach where the wound had not yet fully healed. I didn't take the college entrance exam either. It's all your fault. The hospital room was in chaos, with bloodstains scattered all over the floor. I led the others out, leaving the space for them to act freely. At the end of that day, Xia Jin's mental illness relapsed, and she was sent back to the psychiatric hospital. Her family also had a well-behaved and outstanding younger sister, so her parents simply ignored her, focusing on raising the sister instead, leaving her to fend for herself in the psychiatric hospital. But Jiang Jingyi was the only son of the Jiang family, and his parents couldn't bear to give up on him, openly and secretly begging me to visit him more often. It's just that every time they came to my door, my mother would chase them away. Later, after too many visits, my father, in a fit of anger, cut off all cooperation with the Jiang family, and they finally settled down. On the day the college entrance exam results were released, I saw Jiang Jingyi again. He had lost a lot of weight, his back hunched forward, his hands instinctively covering his stomach. Wanchu, I'm going to repeat the year. I just checked my grades and was in a great mood. I only said, oh, and was about to leave, but he grabbed me. I'm sorry. I know you won't forgive me, but I know I was terribly wrong. I thought our future marriage was a sure thing, but I also wanted to get to know a few more girls, and just then, Xia Jin threw herself at me, so Wanchu, I'm really sorry, please forgive me. Okay. I pulled my sleeve away in disgust, not wanting him to touch me. My parents were still waiting at home to celebrate with me, and I didn't want to waste any more time on him. Jiang Jingyi, you made your own mess. don't come begging for my forgiveness, you don't deserve it." With that, I took off my coat, threw it into the trash can, and strode into the house. After that, I only heard news about him from my classmates. Jiang Jingyi often had nightmares while repeating his studies, dreaming of the knife in Su Hao's father's hand always pointed at his stomach. Under the influence of these nightmares, he had no interest in studying and even started hanging out with troublemakers, learning to smoke, drink, and play video games. In the end, he only studied for half a year before dropping out to drift through society, and was later detained for gang theft. Jiang's parents were completely disappointed in him and simply announced that they were severing ties with him, driving him out of the Jiang family. From then on, he vanished without a trace. After entering university, I focused on my studies and worked tirelessly to fill my time, finally managing to banish the nightmares from both my past and present life from my mind. Not long after I was admitted to graduate school, during a casual chat at a high school reunion, someone mentioned Jiang Jingyi, and everyone felt a sense of regret. He was once a top student, but now he's a homeless man nobody cares about. He really played a great hand of cards terribly. By the way, how is Xia Jin doing? She's still in the mental hospital, surrounded by crazy people. Although she occasionally has moments of clarity, her parents don't want to deal with her, so she'll never get out in this lifetime. Finally, someone looked at me and said, "Wan Chu, if it weren't for what happened on the day of the college entrance exam, you'd probably be married to Jiang Jingyi by now." Right, I took a sip of wine and shook my head. "No." The man quickly smiled apologetically. Yes, of course, now that you've inherited the Shao family, how could Jiang Jingyi ever be worthy of you?" I smiled without saying a word, just lowered my head and took a few more sips, feeling particularly happy. In this life, I have turned my own fate around and changed their endings as well. I don't know what they were thinking, but I am very satisfied myself after hearing the first story above. What are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I have a wonderful mother-in-law. Whenever they meet someone, they say I'm blessed. Not only do I have a great husband, but also a sensible and kind mother-in-law. But what they don't know is that my wonderful mother-in-law is an old flirt in front of men and a sly manipulator in front of her son. In my previous life, she choked my less than a month-old daughter to death with a steamed bun and pushed me off the 27th floor, causing me to fall to my death. In this life, I watched as she filled the drawer with little balloons. Without hesitation, I used a needle to pop them all. I was reborn, returning to the day I married Zhang Liang. As I looked at the familiar faces of family and friends around me, I was certain once again that I had been reborn in my previous life. During the wedding ceremony, when it came time for the change of address gift, she gave me a big, thick red envelope, which drew cheers from the entire crowd. After returning home, I happily opened her big red envelope, only to find a wad of scrap paper inside. My mother-in-law explained that it was to give me face, making outsiders think I had married well. On our wedding night, half an hour later, if there was still any movement in our room, she would promptly knock on the door to remind us not to indulge in excessive desires. On the day I was giving birth, my baby was in the wrong position, requiring an immediate C-section, but my mother-in-law insisted that tomorrow was a more auspicious day. After giving birth to a daughter, she knelt by my bedside and complained to me, saying that if it had been delivered tomorrow, it would definitely have been a son. During my postpartum confinement, my mother-in-law drove out the maternity nurse I had hired. Later, while I was breastfeeding, my mother-in-law complained that I was too thin and that my milk was not nutritious. Yet she gave the breast milk I had expressed to her little grandson to drink. She said diapers were bad for my daughter's bottom, so she took the several boxes of diapers I bought and gave them all to my sister-in-law. She was too stingy to buy diapers, so she cut my pure cotton clothes from the wardrobe into small pieces to use as cloth diapers, claiming it was to save me money. While I was sleeping during my postpartum confinement, she secretly fed my daughter steamed buns. As a result, not only did my daughter choke to death, but she also secretly placed my daughter next to me, saying I slept too heavily and accidentally rolled over and suffocated her. After an intense argument with her, she pushed me off the 27th floor, leaving me shattered and bloodied beyond recognition. She claimed that after I accidentally killed our daughter, I committed suicide out of guilt. After being reborn, I found myself back at my wedding with Zhang Liang. Right at the moment of the change of address ceremony, in front of everyone, I opened the large red envelope from my mother-in-law. Determined to humiliate her in front of all our relatives and friends, she awkwardly tried to explain, "Oh dear, look at my memory. I grabbed the wrong one. this is from a few days ago when my little grandson came over to play, and I packed it for him. She was seen by outsiders as the perfect mother-in-law, and they thought she had genuinely taken the wrong item. After returning home, on our wedding night, just half an hour after turning off the lights, she knocked 3 times on the door, reminding us that it was time to rest. In this lifetime, I deliberately ignored her. I made a lot of noise on purpose, keeping Zhang Liang up until the dead of night. The next day, after Zhang Liang had just left for work, my mother-in-law came to my room to lecture me. Son, you young people just don't pay attention to your health. Overindulgence can affect your body. I knew it was indeed affecting her, because my father-in-law had passed away nearly 10 years ago. Tonight, you two should rest early, let Zhang Liang sleep in the study, and don't keep messing around all day. My mother-in-law stated firmly. Mom, you need to talk to your son about this. After all, the initiative isn't in my hands. As soon as the words were spoken, a cold laugh came from the doorway, followed by the sarcastic voice of my sister-in-law. Zhongli, new officials bring 3 fires, you're newly married and all lovey-dovey. Just wait a few days until my brother gets tired of you, then you'll be crying. Zhang Li's sarcastic mockery was laced with a sharp, biting tone. Oh, did your brother-in-law go out carousing again today? No wonder your eyes are red. You've been crying again, haven't you? I said without holding back. She got married right after high school because she was pregnant. Her husband, Chen Jun, owns a large supermarket. She was only after his money back then and forced him to marry her by using the child as leverage. It turned out that Chen Jun already had a family and children. She, as the mistress, drove away his wife and kids, but she had no idea that behind Chen Jun, there were countless other mistresses waiting in line, too. Zhongli never expected that someone as usually reserved as me would say such things to her. She was absolutely furious, seeing her at a disadvantage. Her mother-in-law immediately chimed in. Son, you, don't be ungrateful. Lear came all the way here today to bring you the gifts for your return visit. Go take a look. There's a whole pile of them. Of course, I knew. The cigarettes, alcohol, and food she brought were all expired, especially the alcohol, which had been expired for 7 or 8 years. After my dad drank it, he was rushed to the hospital. Although his life was saved, his health was severely damaged as a result. I look at the pile of expired items in front of me, holding the bottle of wine that sent my dad to the hospital, and examine it. Can this wine still be drunk? It's been expired for 8 years. Zhongli dismisses it. You really have long hair but short insight. Wine gets richer and more fragrant the longer it's stored. Do you even understand that? What about these foods and drinks? Do they also taste better the longer they're stored? I glance at her sideways, a mocking expression on my face. She nods vigorously. Sister-in-law, you've hit the nail on the head. Then maybe we should just leave these things at home. Let Xiao Bao eat them. Upon hearing this, Zhongli flew into a rage. What did you say? How could my son eat expired food? Yes, how could Xiao Bao eat this? Son, you're going too far. My mother-in-law also scolded me from the side. She's not even charging you. What more do you have to complain about? Xiao Bao can't eat it, but my parents can. Who's really going too far here? I said with a dark expression, extremely displeased. They never expected me to react so strongly. Given that I used to be the type who endured everything without ever arguing back, they always thought I was weak and easy to manipulate, which is why they dared to bully me without restraint. After all, I never said a bad word about them in front of Zhang Liang. When it was time for dinner, my mother-in-law once again instructed me to cook and asked me to go downstairs to buy seafood. Zhongli loves seafood. Every time she comes, my mother-in-law makes me buy 7 or 8 different types of seafood, completely disregarding my seafood allergy. She even said I was being overly sensitive, claiming that having a seafood allergy wouldn't kill me if I ate it. By the way, besides the seafood, also buy a big watermelon to bring up. Lear loves it, my mother-in-law said as she and Zhongli sat on the sofa watching TV, laughing without a care. I'll buy it for you. Just wait. I went to the market and bought a bunch of my favorite dishes, along with mangoes and durian. Humming contentedly, I returned home. When they saw that I hadn't bought seafood or watermelon, their faces immediately fell, and they started criticizing me non-stop. Son, what on earth are you up to? You know perfectly well that Lear is allergic to mangoes, yet you deliberately bought them. Are you trying to kill her? My mother-in-law glared at me and shouted angrily. I sneered. Mom, you said it yourself. It's just an allergy. Eating it won't kill me, and that durian smells awful. Can you not keep it at home? Didn't I already say I hate that smell? Zhongli covered her nose, angrily scolding me. I think it smells quite nice. Where's the stink? why don't you take another sniff? I deliberately moved closer to her, holding the durian up to her nose. She shrieked and dodged away. Get out, Mom, tell her to get out. This is my house. If you can't stand it, get out and go back, I shouted at her without any courtesy. And take your things with you, keep them for yourself, I don't need them. Seeing Zhongli storm out of my house in a rage, I felt inexplicably relieved. The angrier and more upset they are, the happier I become. I'm just giving them a taste of their own medicine. My mother-in-law looked at me with a shocked expression, clearly not believing in my current transformation. She must have thought I had gone mad. 3 in the evening, after Zhang Liang returned from work, my mother-in-law stayed in her room and refused to come out, no matter how much we called for her. My husband, fearing something might have happened to her, called a locksmith and had the door to my mother-in-law's room pried open. After we entered the room, we found her lying on the bed, holding a half-empty bottle of pills in her hand. This scene completely stunned Zhang Liang. He held his mother and shouted for me to call 120. At that moment, my mother-in-law half opened her eyes and said weakly, "No, I don't want to go to the hospital, son. There's no place for me in this family anymore. Let me die, so I won't be in anyone's way." "Son, what's going on?" Zhang Liang's voice was slightly agitated. After all, it was his mother lying on the bed. He was very filial to his mother, otherwise, my mother-in-law wouldn't have been so fond of making a scene. I snatched the medicine bottle from my mother-in-law's hand. The small white pills were indeed sleeping pills, but whether she actually took them or not was hard to say. I pretended to be worried and said, "Honey, let's take Mom to the hospital first. It would be bad if something serious happened. I'll explain the rest on the way." Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law refused to cooperate. She simply got up and plopped herself on the bed, loudly insisting that she absolutely would not go to the hospital. "This old lady is full of energy. She doesn't look like she took sleeping pills at all. I'm sure she's faking it." So, I searched everywhere in her room, as well as the trash cans in the living room, kitchen, and bathroom, looking for the pills. Finally, I found them in the kitchen trash can, and I sneered, "Honey, why don't you carry our mom to the hospital? Taking too many sleeping pills can kill a person." I shouted at Zhang Liang, "I won't go. I'd rather die than go today. My son, your mother has suffered in silence, and there are some things I can only tell your father when I join him." "Mom, what are you doing? What can't you explain clearly? If Sun Yu has done something wrong, just say it, and I'll talk to her about it." Zhang Liang was frantic, his handsome face flushed with anxiety. "Aren't you going back to visit in a few days? Your sister kindly brought cigarettes, alcohol, and food to help you save money, but she doesn't appreciate it. I asked her to go out and buy some fruit, and she deliberately bought mangoes, which your sister is allergic to. She's trying to kill us both." After my mother-in-law finished her complaint, she cried with tears and snot streaming down her face, looking more wrong than Dou-yi ever did. She sure knows how to pick the good things to say. Not mentioning a word about all those expired items, Mom also asked me to buy 7 or 8 types of seafood, but when I went, the seafood was no longer fresh, so I took the liberty of buying other meats instead. As for the mangoes, they looked fresh and I thought you'd like them, so I brought them back for you, I explained to Zhang Liang, wearing a look of grievance on my face. Seeing my aggrieved expression, Zhang Liang felt sorry for me again. He gently scolded his mother, "Mom, I've told you many times, son, you can't eat seafood. Can we please never have seafood in the house again?" Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law widened her eyes angrily, glared at me, and picked up the remaining half bottle on the table, ready to take a sip. This time, Zhang Liang snatched it away, and he was furious. I showed Zhang Liang the pills from the kitchen trash can, and he understood immediately. Even though he was dissatisfied with his mother, he was ultimately a devoted son. After comforting her for an hour, he personally went to the kitchen to serve a bowl of rice and fed it to her himself. What a heartwarming and touching scene that was. For, around 10 o'clock, Zhang Liang returned to the room and kept telling me how hard it had been for his mother to raise him all by herself. He also said that his mother had never remarried for his sake, fearing he might suffer. His mother had sacrificed her whole life for him and endured a lot of hardship, so he asked me to be more understanding and not to argue with her. However, I often overheard her chatting with different older men on WeChat about explicit topics, and she would often dress up glamorously, go out for an hour, and then come back. I have never said these words to Zhang Liang, because I know he wouldn't believe me. I told him that everything his sister sent was expired, and he promised me that tomorrow he would accompany me to Zhang Li's supermarket to give me an explanation. As usual, at 10:30, my mother-in-law knocked on the door again. This time, I opened the door wearing very little. When she saw me, she kept muttering under her breath, calling me shameless and a vixen. How is it shameless for me and my own husband? It's still better than some people who fool around outside. I looked at her mockingly. After hearing this, my mother-in-law, furious and embarrassed, said, "You two are too loud, you're disturbing me, Mom. If you think we're too noisy, Liang Zhang and I will move out tomorrow." Okay. After hearing my words, my mother-in-law stared at me in disbelief for a long time, then stomped away. Angrily, the next day, Zhang Liang got off work early on purpose and took me to Zhang Li's supermarket. Zhang Li was sitting there with her legs crossed, playing on her phone. When she saw us arrive, she warmly greeted her brother, completely ignoring my presence. "Xiao Li, your sister-in-law says she was wrong. She came today specifically to apologize to you." Seeing Zhang Li's attitude toward me, Zhang Liang quickly nudged me, signaling for me to apologize to her. "Xiao Li, it was my fault. I'm sorry." I lowered my head and apologized to her. "All right, for my brother's sake, I won't hold it against you." Zhang Li, with an air of superiority, pulled her brother aside to sit down. "Does the gift from yesterday still count?" Zhang Liang asked her. "Brother, as long as you want it, it's available anytime." After saying that, Zhang Li turned and went to the warehouse to fetch the pile of expired items from yesterday. Then, Zhang Liang went to the counter and picked out 2 bottles of fake yen mitai, 2 packs of Huazi cigarettes, along with some wild black tea and Dahongpo tea, as well as 6 boxes of bird's nest. Zhang Li came over with the expired items in both hands, her face showing an expression of disbelief. "Brother, what are you doing with these?" Zhang Li pointed at the things in his hands, puzzled. "Xiao Li, the return gift you promised to give me, I've already picked it out." "Thank you." Zhang Liang walked up, patted her on the shoulder, and took my hand as we walked out. "Brother, the things in my hands are the return gifts for her. Does she, an outsider, really need to take these?" Zhang Li looked on the verge of collapse, almost fainting. Zhang Liang stopped in his tracks, turned back, and told her, "Your sister-in-law is not an outsider, she is my beloved. Also, if you want to eat seafood in the future, don't come to my house, your sister-in-law is allergic." Aside from being blindly filial to his mother, Zhang Liang was actually quite decent in other aspects. He was right, after making Zhang Li suffer a significant loss this time. She quieted down for a while and never came to our house again. 5. Lately, whenever Zhang Liang works overtime at night, all the dishes on the table at home are ones I don't like. "It's fine, I won't eat them. I can order takeout and get more of the things I like to eat. If there's any left, I can feed the stray dogs downstairs." While my mother-in-law was scolding me for wasting money, she received a phone call and immediately beamed with joy, saying she had something urgent to attend to and needed to go out. She left the little one at home and went out all dressed up. Apart from meeting some old man outside, I really can't think of any other reason why she would leave her beloved little grandson at home. This little brat is a born troublemaker. Whenever he sees a girl wearing a skirt, he runs over and lifts it to see what color it is. His mother is proud of him, boasting that her precious son is exceptionally gifted and has known how to chase girls since he was little. Another time, he saw a little girl about 1 year old on the street. While her mother was on the phone, he took advantage of the moment and actually squeezed the little girl's neck with both hands. He said he called out to the little girl twice, and when she didn't respond, he got angry and squeezed her neck. Fortunately, the parents discovered it in time, otherwise the consequences would have been unimaginable. I thought that after this incident, his mother would learn her lesson, but she said, "So what? There's nothing in their family that money can't solve." As I was about to go back to my room, little Bao took out an open box of condoms from somewhere, shouting that he wanted to eat candy and asking me to open it for him. I never expected that my elderly, single mother-in-law would still be using these things, so an evil idea was born in my mind. I poked holes in all her condoms with a needle. 2 months later, I became pregnant. When she accompanied me to the hospital for a checkup, she asked the doctor, saying she hadn't had her period for 2 months and wondered if she was going through menopause. The doctor suggested she get a blood test, and when the results came back, she was stunned for a long time, repeatedly saying it was impossible. She told the doctor that her husband had passed away over a decade ago, so how could she possibly be pregnant? She insisted it must be a hospital mistake and demanded a re-examination. The doctor, annoyed by the situation, remarked that some elderly people nowadays have no sense of propriety and are truly shameless, then left. After returning home, my mother-in-law begged me to keep her secret, even going so far as to kneel and plead with me, fearing I might reveal it. That's true, she's seen as the perfect mother-in-law in everyone's eyes. if this scandal gets out, her reputation will be completely ruined. Mom, I can help you keep it a secret, but you have to tell me who the father of the child is, right? I sat on the sofa, looking coldly at her kneeling on the floor. I don't know if it's Uncle Wang, Uncle Li, or the security guard downstairs, she muttered softly, her head lowered. This is just too shocking. I wonder how her son would react if he saw this scene. Uncle Wang next door has a wife. How could you do something to break up someone else's family? I scolded her. I was just having fun with him. How could I break up his family? My mother-in-law lifted her face and argued, son, if you accompany me to get an abortion, we'll be as close as mother and daughter from now on, and I'll definitely treat you twice as well, but this procedure requires your son to sign in person. You're older, and the risk is higher. I wouldn't dare take you there recklessly. I looked at all of this with satisfaction. I had also recorded everything she said, of course, and would first send it to her son to see. When Zhang Liang returned, he was trembling with anger, his face dark as thunder. 6. This was the first time Zhang Liang had ever yelled at his mother. He never expected that the mother he had respected most since childhood would do such a thing. He was disappointed, deeply disappointed. Do you think it's easy for me? After all, I'm a woman too. Your father has been gone for over a decade. How do you think I've endured these thousands of days and nights? Who can understand me? She cried, her voice hoarse and strained. Now that you've made something of yourself and gotten married, you don't recognize me as your mother anymore. What's the point of me living then? With that, she prepared to crash into the wine cabinet but was stopped by Zhang Liang. Mom, I've told you before, I don't object to you finding a partner, but look at the kind of people you've been with, and now there's even a child involved. You've completely lost face, Zhang Liang said angrily. The old lady cried and complained to him for half an hour, promising Zhang Liang that she would cut ties with those unsavory individuals. After all, Zhang Liang was her own son, and he soon softened, agreeing to accompany her to the hospital for the surgery the next day. After arriving at the hospital, my mother-in-law kept insisting that she must have general anesthesia because she was afraid of pain. My husband, feeling sorry for her, agreed and paid for the surgery on her behalf, but I quietly told the doctor that my mother-in-law has high blood pressure and cannot undergo general anesthesia. During the surgery, my mother-in-law screamed so loudly in the operating room that it was earth-shattering, crying out in pain. Wasn't it general anesthesia? Why is Mom screaming so much? Zhang Liang asked me in confusion. Maybe Mom doesn't respond well to anesthesia. When my mother-in-law came out of the operating room, she looked absolutely miserable. Her face was deathly pale, her whole body was trembling, her lips were quivering, her eyes were red and swollen, and tears were streaming down her face. Seeing this scene, I finally felt a sense of vengeful satisfaction. She deserved all of this. In the following days, Zhang Liang took leave to personally care for her. She also valued her reputation, so she stayed at home obediently and didn't go anywhere. Soon, the day of my delivery arrived. Due to my abnormal fetal position, an emergency C-section was urgently needed. My mother-in-law stopped me and said, "You can't have the C-section today, do it tomorrow, and I guarantee it'll be a son, can staying in the womb for one more day change the gender." I've truly never heard of such a thing. The child was born, just like in my previous life, a girl. Seeing her and thinking about her tragic death in my past life, my heart felt as if it were being cut by a knife. My mother-in-law, upon learning I had given birth to a girl, knelt by my bedside in tears, crying, "What a sin! I told you not to have the C-section today, not today. But you just wouldn't listen, Mom. Whether it's a boy or a girl was determined the moment son you got pregnant. What kind of logic is that?" Zhang Liang patiently explained to his mother. "What do you know? I spent 1,000 yuan to have a master calculate it. Not only is tomorrow a lucky day, but it was supposed to be a boy." My mother-in-law sobbed. Zhang Liang was about to leave for work, worried that I wouldn't like the hospital cafeteria food. He ordered a week's worth of postpartum meals for me. After my mother-in-law found out, she secretly put a strand of hair in the dishes of my postpartum meals. They made a big fuss, demanding a refund, claiming the food was unclean and had caused stomach issues, but I directly told the person delivering the postpartum meals that next time, after opening the meal box, they should just place it directly on my small table. When my mother-in-law found out, she was furious. She called me an ingrate, saying I was siding with outsiders, and then she left on her own. It was just as well that she left. Now I could legitimately hire a postpartum caregiver. A week after being discharged from the hospital, I returned home, only to be informed by my mother-in-law that our child was on summer vacation and would be staying with us for a month. I couldn't help but sneer. Wasn't this just a way to prevent me from having a proper postpartum recovery? 7. What could I do? I told her I would simply go stay at a postpartum care center, which would only cost a little over 20,000 yuan for a month. Upon hearing this, she panicked and hurriedly stopped me. You're not earning any money at home, yet you're splurging like this. You don't care how hard my son works to earn money, but I do. You feel sorry for your son, but your son cares about his wife and daughter. Either send Xiaobao away, or I'll go to the postpartum care center. You decide. I spoke firmly, giving her 2 options. Reluctantly, she agreed to send Xiaobao away in a couple of days. I was awakened by the sound of an argument. When I walked into the living room, I found the postpartum nanny and my mother-in-law quarreling. Upon seeing me, the nanny's eyes welled up with tears. She insisted she didn't want to stay in our home anymore and demanded to resign. After she left, I asked my mother-in-law what was going on. She said dismissively, "Isn't it just that little Bao drank a bit of your breast milk? What's the big deal?" It turned out she had taken the breast milk I had expressed and stored in the refrigerator and given it to little Bao to drink. "Look at how skinny you are. Your breast milk probably isn't very nutritious. You shouldn't give it to Anan anymore," my mother-in-law explained. "I have some formula here. Take it and make some for Anan." I glared angrily at the formula she had obtained by scanning a QR code. My fingers clenched so tightly they made cracking sounds. I snatched the formula can from her hand and threw it to the ground. "My breast milk is for nursing my daughter, not for feeding pigs," I said angrily, then turned and walked towards the room. My mother-in-law stood in the living room with a livid face, watching my back disappear from sight, and said through gritted teeth, "You don't know what's good for you." I knew that next, she would start stealing the diapers I had stockpiled. The 4 large boxes of diapers were gone by the next morning. I went to ask my mother-in-law for an explanation, but she stammered and said she didn't know. "Don't know? Fine, I'll call the police." Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law quickly came over to stop me from calling the police. My mother-in-law shouted angrily, "You crazy woman, what are you doing? How much is a box of diapers worth? Is it worth calling the police over? What? Weren't you so concerned about how hard your son works to earn money? Not so concerned now," I retorted sarcastically. "A box of diapers costs several hundred yuan. All right, they all say that those diapers are bad for a girl's bottom, so I took them to Liar's supermarket to sell for money. I did it all for Anan's sake," my mother-in-law said righteously, not feeling she had done anything wrong at all. Under my strong insistence, my mother-in-law went to Zhang Li's supermarket and returned all the diapers she had taken. When she came back, she almost suffered from heatstroke, sweating profusely from exhaustion. Upon seeing Zhang Liang, she complained to him. This time, Zhang Liang didn't indulge her, saying she had brought it upon herself. That night, I deliberately placed my favorite clothes in another cabinet and locked it. If nothing unexpected happens, the clothes in my cabinet will be cut into diapers by her tomorrow. Early the next morning, my mother-in-law was holding Anan to soothe her to sleep, and my sharp eyes noticed that Anan wasn't wearing a diaper. Faced with my questioning, my mother-in-law explained that the hot weather could cause diaper rash, and using cloth diapers would be cooler and more breathable. She also said that my clothes were high-end and good for the baby's bottom, and she was doing this to help us save money on buying diapers. Feeling wronged, I called Zhang Liang and told him about it. He said he would take me shopping for clothes after work. Afraid of a repeat of the scene where my mother-in-law fed my daughter steamed buns, I sent my daughter to my mother's house in advance to be looked after. My mother-in-law living here is always a potential risk. I need to find a way to send her to the countryside for retirement. 8. When we returned, Zhang Liang and I were both carrying shopping bags full of the latest purchases. My mother-in-law was green with envy, filled with resentment and anger. Such a wasteful woman. Zhang Liang and I exchanged a smile, then walked into the room under her envious and jealous gaze. I thought my mother-in-law would behave herself after the abortion incident last time. Unexpectedly, she got involved with Uncle Wang next door again, taking advantage of Aunt Lan, Uncle Wang's wife, going to their daughter's house to take care of their grandchild. The two of them have been inseparable, whether they have something to do or not. Not only that, but my mother-in-law has also become obsessed with ballroom dancing. Every night at 7 o'clock sharp, she goes to the park to dance. My mother-in-law looks young and has a good figure. When she dances in a form-fitting cheongsam, she really has that charm. She went to ballroom dancing and was quite popular, with some older men vying to invite her to dance. She swayed her hips coquettishly among the crowd, linking arms with various men, her face beaming with a happy smile. Zhang Liang saw that his mother had found a new hobby and was happy for her, unaware that this was his mother's way of hunting for romance again. After a while, my mother-in-law developed some brown papules and red patches on her body, Zhang Liang, and I took her to the hospital for a checkup, and she was ultimately diagnosed with late-stage syphilis. What did you say? Mom has syphilis? I was utterly shocked upon hearing this, even forgetting to hide the expression on my face. Zhang Liang, furious, shouted at his mother, "Mom, have you forgotten what you promised me? How could you do something so shameless?" My mother-in-law, publicly scolded by her son, was overwhelmed with shame and collapsed into a chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Since syphilis in its late stages is essentially incurable, Zhang Liang and I discussed sending his mother back to their hometown to retire. When we returned to the neighborhood, Aunt Lan from Uncle Wang's house had gathered a group of people. They were pulling her hair, slapping her face, kicking and punching her, all while hurling insults. "You shameless woman, trying to seduce a married man, shameless vixen, dare to bully my sister, I'll beat you to death." Slap. Zhang Liang tried hard to squeeze in, but he couldn't move at all, and he was even roughly shoved by them. Half an hour later, I watched helplessly as my mother-in-law, now bruised and battered, disheveled and with her clothes in disarray at this moment, my good mother-in-law finally got the retribution she deserved. Truly, justice is served, and retribution is inevitable. Zhang Liang took her to the hospital, but because she was severely injured and lacked the will to live, she passed away not long after. Without my mother-in-law, my life has returned to normal, I whispered in my daughter's ear, and then, there will be no more bad grandma feeding you steamed buns. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. There is a most pitiful child in the village. He lives in a doghouse and eats dog food, and he is constantly beaten. The village chief tried to intervene several times but was scolded away each time. You can treat your own child however you want. If you have the guts, take them home and raise them yourself. Everyone could only shake their heads helplessly, until one day, a strange line of text appeared before my eyes. "Don't interfere, let him grow up, and he'll kill you all, beasts, all accomplices, supporting the massacre of the village." To save myself, I took all my savings and went to the Chen family. "I'll buy this boy." One, Chen Dafa's wife, Wang Cuehua, gave me a once-over and scoffed. Another do-gooder trying to buy it. "Fine, 50 yuan. A few years ago, after the disaster, every household was poor, and that amount wasn't exactly small, but thinking of those strange words, I still didn't hesitate. All right, perhaps seeing how straightforward I was, Wang Cuehua immediately changed her mind. "No, this will be a laborer in the future. 50 yuan won't do, 100 yuan. After saying that, he took out a stick and thumped it on Chinjila. "Look, this one's alive, a boy." The child tried to dodge by turning in circles, but was pulled back by the chain around his neck. He could only watch as the stick came down again and again. He didn't even cry out in pain, his eyes dull, as if he had grown accustomed to it. Chinjila was the child of Chindafa's ex-wife. Just by hearing the name she gave the child, you could tell she must have been an educated person. She was an educated youth from the city, named Meng Yero, and she was also a very gentle woman, but perhaps life in the fields was too harsh, so she married Chindafa during those years of hardship. I actually think they were a very mismatched pair, and I don't know what the educated youth Meng saw in him, but a year ago, the educated youth Meng ran away and couldn't be found anywhere. Chindafa then remarried, and his new wife is Wang Cuehua. She doesn't like this leftover child, but because there is only this one child in the family, Chindafa values him greatly. Wang Cuehua can only find various excuses to torment him, perhaps out of hatred for his wife running away. Chindafa did not stop her. Some villagers couldn't stand it and came over to try to stop her, but each time, she would curse them, saying, "You all think your bodhisattva was descended from heaven, while I'm the one with a rotten heart and lungs. I'm just the wicked stepmother. What's wrong with not liking him? You feel sorry for him, is that it? Come on, take the money, I'll give him to you, and you can raise him from now on." But the villagers couldn't even feed their own children, let alone someone else's child. Even if it's a boy, it's nothing special. Who doesn't have 3 or 5 children at home, too? Seeing how thin Chen Jila was, I took a steamed bun from my pocket and handed it to him. He immediately devoured it as if he hadn't eaten for days. Wang Cuehua didn't feel heartbroken. Instead, she was delighted. "Today, I don't have to worry about providing meals again." The barrage of comments started scrolling again, with emotions running quite high. "You wicked stepmother, just wait, you'll be the first one to face the consequences. Woo-woo. Our Gila is so pitiful. Quick, save him." Remembering the ending they mentioned, I still decided to go and gather some money, even if it's just to give him a meal. It's better than staying here. My home is quite remote, located at the foot of the back mountain. This location is quiet and also convenient for going up the mountain. It's just right for my father to go hunting in the mountains, but just a month ago, my father passed away, leaving me all alone. I am 25 this year. Already considered an old maid in the village. Actually, I am not my father's biological child. As for who my biological parents are, I do not know. I was casually abandoned on the mountain and later adopted and raised by a kind-hearted old hunter. All these years, no one has come looking for me. After all, there were so many baby girls on the mountain, who could tell them apart, and to support my father in his old age, I insisted on finding a live-in son-in-law. But even after my father passed away, I still hadn't found a suitable one to treat and bury my father. The family's money was basically all used up. This meager 50 yuan was all I could scrape together. At night, I knocked open a small brick under the Kong. This was what my father instructed me to do before he passed away. The guarantee your father left for you. Use it when you can't make ends meet. At that time, I was too caught up in my grief to remember this detail. Just as I expected, it was money. All the bits and pieces added up to a total of $150. I don't know how long it's been stored. There was also a small piece of gold, but with the strict controls nowadays, this gold is useless. Seeing me immediately toss the gold aside, the barrage grew anxious. Don't, that's gold. It'll be worth a fortune in the future. Keep it. Yes, 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 it will be valuable in the future. Upon hearing this, I silently put the gold back into the box, counting the money in my hand. I hesitated. Actually, I could easily take the money and move to another village. They avoided the fate of being slaughtered and didn't have to care for a young child. But remembering the child's numb face, their feet simply wouldn't move. Perhaps they saw their own abandoned self in the past, or perhaps it was for the expectations of this group of strange people, or perhaps it was for my father. I wiped away my tears and kowtowed 3 times toward the courtyard. If I can truly accomplish this, please bless my father with a peaceful and happy family in his next life. Don't let him suffer the loss of his children and wife again, living a desolate life like he did. In this one, I deliberately waited a few days before going to the Chen family. Seeing that I could come up with so much money all at once, Wang Cuihua's eyes darted around, and she started scheming again. I turned around and walked away without hesitation. If you don't want it, forget it. After all, that child has already been beaten up by you. Spending so much money isn't worth it. Wang Cuihua quickly stopped me and whispered with Chen Dafa for a long time. In the end, she couldn't resist the temptation and sold Chinjila to me. 3. Wang Cuihua untied the iron chain and deliberately tugged at his neck. Chinjila was very thin, and the iron chain struck directly against his bones, making a clattering sound. I shouted, "What are you doing? This child will be my child from now on. I don't care how you treated him before, but if you lay a hand on him again, I'll make you regret it. Although I am a woman, I am not short in stature." He had been working in the fields all year round, so he was quite strong. Wang Cuihua still felt somewhat intimidated. After all, her husband, Chen Dafa, was as thin as a monkey. If a real fight broke out, it was hard to say who would end up beating whom. Chinjila stood up, his clothes already torn to shreds, leaving him barely covered. Fortunately, I was prepared and took out some old clothes to wrap him up. He should be 5 years old this year, but he doesn't seem to have grown much taller. It's as if, after his mother passed away, he never grew up again. I carried him away, and he didn't react much, but I still told him, "I've bought you. From now on, you are my child, and you never have to come back here again." He still showed no reaction, as if he had already lost his mind. I remember that at first, the Chen Dafa household was always filled with cries, but at some point, they disappeared. Usually, when I caught a glimpse of him, he was huddled in the doghouse. It was a real doghouse. His family used to have a big yellow dog. After the big yellow dog died, it became his home. I brought Chinjila home, boiled water, and gave him a bath. He was really filthy, with long hair full of lice, but after taking off his clothes, an even worse situation was discovered. His body was covered in wounds, both large and small. Some of the skin seemed necrotic, and there were even insects crawling on it. Although I've seen many decaying animal carcasses while hunting, but when it appears on a child, I still feel a chill. The barrage is also filled with curses. They don't understand how someone could be so cruel to their own child. I also don't understand why they are so agitated. Hitting children is a very normal thing. Losing children is also very normal. Many people in the village had 7 or 8 children, and only 3 or 4 survived. According to my father, during the most chaotic years, if you go to the back hill at night, You can hear the cries of baby girls everywhere. There are no more after that, because they're all dead. The village never lacks children. If one dies, just have another. Amid a flood of angry comments, one suddenly rose to the top. All right, woman, I declare you spared from death. It's really baffling, making me unable to help but laugh, as the hot water poured over her. Chinchilla instinctively shrank back. I asked, does it hurt? He didn't answer. I wanted to pat his head to comfort him, but he dodged with a big movement. Water splashed in the basin, so I had to give up. It took several buckets of hot water to finally get him clean. He usually looks like a mud ball, but after a bath, he turns out to be fair-skinned, but that kind of paleness clearly indicates malnutrition. When it was time to sleep at night, after much consideration, I still placed him on the bed. I was worried that he might not adapt to the new home on the first day, but there were no issues at all. I ended up waiting until I grew tired. I had just fallen asleep when I heard a loud thud. I quickly sat up and saw Chinchilla lying on the floor, not even crying out in pain. He quickly got up on his own, walked to a corner, and crouched down, hugging his knees. I sighed, took out another blanket, and made a makeshift bed for him on the floor. It's late summer now, not too cold yet, so there's no risk of catching a cold from the chill. 5. When I woke up in the morning, I found Chinchilla running a fever, likely due to the bath he took yesterday, which caused an infection in his wound. I had no choice but to ask the village's barefoot doctor to prescribe some medicine. That's just how it is for kids in the countryside. When they get sick, they simply tough it out. If you can tough it out, you'll live. If you can't, there's still room in the back hills to squeeze in. Chinchilla was burning up with fever, his face flushed red, so I forced medicine down his throat. I also cooked some porridge made from fine rice and prepared a meat broth using the leftover scraps from hunting. I fed it all to him. He may seem slow-witted, but he never refuses anything that comes his way. The barrage of comments even gave me advice: wipe his body, make him sweat. After struggling like this for a few days, the fever finally subsided. I also breathed a sigh of relief. Chinchilla finally started to look up at me, though he still wouldn't leave the room. I didn't pay him any mind, watching him move around the house like a little animal, touching this and poking that. The bell for work rang, and I called out toward the room, I'm going to work in the fields. Are you coming? No one replied to me, so I left food and toys in the room. It was a small rattan ball, made for me by my father himself. It wasn't very refined, but I cherished it dearly. Old friend, it's time for you to shine, going to work in the fields. Someone immediately asked me about Chinchilla. Some said I had a kind heart, while others made sarcastic remarks about me. There were also men who heard I spent 100 yuan to buy this child. They pulled me aside to talk about marriage. Return the child, and I'll live with you. But among all of them, he was the least attractive, and I didn't even like him. The man, embarrassed and angry, muttered, I was doing you a favor by agreeing to go home with you, and you're still being picky. I narrowed my eyes. What did you say? Speak up. But the man dashed away in an instant. Tomboy, no wonder nobody wants you, I scoffed. Coward. 6. When the bell signaling the end of work rang, I returned home. Chinchilla was still curled up in the corner under the blanket. His toys were left untouched where they were, but his rice bowl was already empty. None of that mattered. The worst part was that he relieved himself wherever he pleased, but this couldn't be blamed on him either, because the Chen family had kept him in a dog kennel, and he had always been like that. I realized this child was more difficult to handle than I had imagined. It seems he was locked up by the Chen family until something went wrong. I had no choice but to take out a wooden bucket to teach him how to use the toilet, but he remained silent, and I had no idea whether he actually understood or not. At noon, I cooked a meal, and Chinchilla still mechanically stuffed food into his mouth. When I saw his belly had bulged, I took the food away. Watching his eyes follow the bowl, I explained to him, you can't eat too much at once. He still didn't respond as usual. In the following days, we maintained this state. I went to work, hunted, and he stayed at home until today. When I came home, I noticed his change, because there are 2 oily handprints on that rattan ball that always stays in the same place. The players even know to put it back in its original spot. I think it's a good start. While hunting in the mountains at night, I came across a nest of rabbits. There was a pregnant female rabbit inside, so I brought it home. I built a rabbit hutch overnight. Early the next morning, I went to work, and when I came home and opened the door, I caught a fleeting glimpse of Chinchilla running away. On the other side was the rabbit hutch. It seems he likes the little rabbit. I think so. 7. So from that day on, I stopped putting the rabbit's food in its hutch, but outside the fence. But every time I came home, the rabbit was never hungry. I looked into the room and immediately had a mischievous idea. For the next few days, I simply didn't put out any food. On the first day, Chinchilla secretly glanced at me. On the second day, Chinchilla seemed to want to say something but hesitated. On the third day, Chinchilla was restless and couldn't sit still. On the fourth day, Chinchilla tugged at my sleeve. I asked, "What is it?" He pointed toward the rabbit hutch, wanting to pull me over. I pretended not to understand and continued with my own tasks. He grew increasingly restless, his feet tapping impatiently. A low, grumbling sound began to escape from his throat. He hadn't spoken in so long, and I didn't want to push him. Guiding along with the situation, "Do you want grass?" He then nodded to indicate that he did. I took out a small sickle from the doorway, handed it to him, and pointed him in the direction. "You need to cut it from the backyard." He held the sickle handle, not leaving, just standing in front of me. Since he didn't move, I didn't move either. Perhaps seeing that I really had no intention of taking action, Chinchilla finally dragged the sickle and walked away with a clattering sound. The barrage was filled with wails. "You bad guy, not even helping our baby. It's actually quite cute." 8. First-time strangers, second-time friends. Chinchilla no longer stayed curled up in bed and started enjoying feeding the rabbits in the rabbit hutch. "This is a good thing, but you can't feed it 8 times a day." I took the grass from his hand and gave him a serious warning. "The rabbit will overeat and die." He looked at his empty hand, then raised his head and expressed his dissatisfaction to me. Still a little wild child who can't speak." I sized him up and down, saying, "You need to study, you need to." For a long time, I couldn't think of a suitable word. I could only say, "You need to turn over a new leaf." The barrage laughed heartily. "You're the one who's not human." Chinchilla also protested my statement, letting out an even angrier sound. Everything is moving in a positive direction. That day, when I went to the river to fetch water, I didn't lock the door. After all, it's not a good thing for Chinchilla to always stay cooped up at home. I never expected something would happen in such a short time. Before I even reached the doorstep, I could hear a woman's furious roar from inside the house. "You little brat, how dare you bite me? I'll beat you to death." I rushed in immediately, only to see Wang Tsuihua choking Chinchilla by the neck. I pulled out the shoulder pole and gave him a whack. Wang Tsuihua let out a howl and started cursing. "Who dares to hit me?" I took over Chinchilla, whom she had almost thrown away, and said coldly, "Your great-aunt." Seeing it was me, she showed no discomfort at all about barging into someone else's home. She pointed at Chinchilla and immediately started complaining. "I came here with good intentions to see how this little brat was doing, but I never expected him to be so ungrateful. Show me your wrist." And sure enough, there's a row of deep bite marks. "Look at what you've done to me. Now you're the mother of this little one. You have to take responsibility, right, if you don't pay for my medical expenses." "This isn't over," I sneered and slapped her hand away. "Unfinished, my ass. You barged into my house and hit my child, and I haven't even settled the score with you yet." 9. Behind me, Chinchilla tugged at the hem of my clothes, pointing at the ground and crying. The pregnant mother rabbit lay on its back, groaning in pain. I glared sideways. "You old hag, how dare you throw my rabbit?" Wang Tsuihua felt a pang of guilt for a moment, then quickly regained her confidence. "It's just a lousy rabbit. What's more important, it or me? That little brat is just plain wicked, a thing born without a mother to raise it." Hearing this, Chinchilla suddenly became agitated. He ran to the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen knife, and came out, swinging it at Wang Tsuihua. Wang Tsuihua was startled and quickly ran out the door, clutching her pounding heart. You wait." Seeing that he was about to chase after her, I quickly stopped him. "All right, that's enough." He suddenly seemed to lose all strength, his shoulders slumping as he said sadly, "Rabbit." He can now say some simple words, though his voice doesn't sound very pleasant. I went up to check on the rabbit, and the situation was not good at all. "We need to deliver the babies quickly." It took over an hour for the mother rabbit to finish giving birth. There were 8 rabbits in this litter, but 2 of them were stuck for too long and died right after birth. The mother rabbit, too, was on the verge of death. Chinchilla carried the rabbit back to his own little den, constantly feeding it water and grass, hoping it would survive, but after a night, it was still gone. In the backyard, Chinchilla dug a small pit and buried the rabbit inside. She was crying so hard. For the first time she took the initiative to bury herself in my arms. The barrage of comments was also trying to comfort him. "It's okay, I was this sad when my grandpa passed away too. But separation is just a required course in life. Yeah, I was this sad when my beloved pet was stewed and eaten by my mom, but I'm fine now." "Ah, what kind of underworld joke is that from upstairs?" I've always been curious about what kind of people are behind these strange texts. Now it seems they might also be a group of unloved children. 10. Chinchilla was in low spirits for several days, but still managed to pull himself together to take care of the newborn rabbits. I have to admire this little guy for this. He's quite a resilient kid. As for Wang Tsuehua, I had long forgotten about her, but I never expected that she remembered everything. There aren't many people living around my house. It only gets a bit lively when the villagers go up and down the mountain, but today was super lively because Wang Tsuehua brought a whole bunch of people. Everyone, take a look, how cruel this little brat is. A few days ago, I came with good intentions to see how he was doing in his new home, and he bit me. Everyone, come take a look. Wang Tsuehua held up her wrist and passed it around the crowd. The bite mark had already turned dark blue and purple. The villagers immediately gasped. That's a really harsh bite. Wang Tsuehua stood with her hands on her hips, clapping and shouting, now you all see it, don't you? Before, everyone said we were too harsh on this child, but we had no other choice. What child dares to treat their elders like this? Not beating them to death is already a sign of our kindness. Everyone immediately chimed in, seemingly forgetting the kind of life Chinchilla had lived before. They say Chinchilla is heartless and shouldn't treat his parents this way. In their eyes, parents are the heavens, the earth. Parents hitting their children is only natural. If children dare to resist, that is an unforgivable sin. I watched Wang Tsuehua's performance with a cold eye. What's going on? Are you looking for trouble? Wang Tsuehua smacked her lips, as if she had found a backer and was no longer afraid. What's wrong with you, girl? Last time you hit me over a rabbit, interrupting an elder without any manners. Truly a thing raised without a mother. It was well known that I was found by a hunter. Watching the people around pointing and whispering, I didn't speak, just waiting to see what they were up to. Sure enough, after a round of arguing, they stated, Ji Tao, your family's hunting has always been using public resources. You've been taking advantage of everyone else, which is why you've been living so comfortably. This time, your child has made a mistake, so you should contribute $50 first, to apologize for the child's ignorance, and second, to thank everyone for taking care of you for so long. I sneered. I was wondering who had come today. Turns out it's a beggar. Everyone immediately became furious and started blaming me together. Wang Tsuehua was right. You really are an ill-mannered thing. No wonder you can't get married. Some people even tried to squeeze into the yard. You don't know how to behave, girl. Let me teach you. 11. This scene was not unfamiliar to me. My father, with his skills, lived better than the average villager. After losing both my son and my wife, many people tried to take advantage of me. After all, the village is so large, and there are always some disgusting individuals. I picked up the bow and arrows from the wall and aimed them at the crowd. The barrage of comments erupted in a frenzy, saying things I couldn't understand. That's criminal. So criminal. It's fine. It's fine. This is called justifiable defense. Wrong. This is excessive defense. But the crowd was clearly intimidated by me. Although I couldn't harm everyone, no one wanted to be the first to get hurt by me. Suddenly, a scream came from beside the wall, and I looked over. Someone was trying to take advantage of the chaos to steal the rabbit skin I had hung on the wall. It was the mother rabbit's skin. Even though it was dead, it still had to make a contribution. Discovered by Chinchilla, he was hit hard with a stone. The crowd that witnessed this scene grew furious once again. He really is a wolf cub, someone shouted. Could he be holding a grudge against all of us? One sentence instantly sparked a sense of crisis among everyone, and they clamored to throw Chinchilla into the river. This won't do. We can't keep him anymore. What if one day he ends up harming all of us? It must be said, this was a prophetic statement. Just then, the village chief arrived. Hearing everyone's words, the veins on his head were throbbing. Nonsense, utter nonsense. Don't you know this is illegal? To be honest, the village chief has been explaining many principles to us over the past few years, but many villagers didn't take it seriously. After all, in the past, the village even had the authority to carry out executions without authorization. The barrage comments expressed disbelief, but I think they're overreacting. Finally, with the village chief's mediation, everyone dispersed, leaving only Wang Tsuehua behind for a separate talk. You wicked stepmother. It's a blessing the child finally got away from you, and now you come here to stir up trouble. Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Seeing their life getting better, you can't stand it, can you? Next time you cause trouble, I'll write a big character poster and parade you through the streets. Wang Tsuehua was startled. If that really happened, she would have no face left to show anyone. At that moment, Chindafa slowly walked out. It's all my fault for not keeping my wife in check. I'll definitely educate her more when we get back. Then, as if explaining to me, Your aunt is also worried that a young girl like you wouldn't know how to take care of a child. After all, Gila is a difficult child to discipline. Otherwise, I, as his father, wouldn't have treated him that way. We're just concerned about you. As the saying goes, you don't hit someone who's smiling. The village chief couldn't say much more, but I'm different. I have no manners. I raised my hand and slapped him. She only hit her, not you. What are you pretending for me? If it weren't for your tacit approval, how could a stepmother abuse a child right under your nose? I always said that Meng Jiqing was blind to have taken a liking to you back then. You really think you're something special? Well, after seeing them off, I felt a headache coming on. A single woman alone is already enough to attract unwanted attention, and now there's a child too. But looking at Chinjila's innocent eyes, I didn't say anything more. I just ruffled his hair and gave him a reminder. Don't hit people randomly from now on. My daily routine is working during the day and hunting small animals in the mountains under the cover of night. Chinjila's life consists of feeding rabbits, daydreaming, feeding rabbits, and daydreaming. Even the barrage comments can't stand it anymore, living so leisurely. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Send him to school, please. Going to school is a luxury, not to mention the extra expenses. The main issue is that there is no school in our village, and the school in town is very far away. Besides, going to school isn't really useful anyway. Even the educated youth who studied have come to the village to work in the countryside. Bullet comments. No, going to school is useful. In the future, when policies change, college graduates will be highly sought after. Let your child go to school, even if it's just a vocational college, and then take the civil service exam. They'll never have to worry about food and drink for the rest of their life. Exactly. Never go work in a factory. Those factories will shut down in a few years. The barrage of comments was all saying things completely different from the current situation. I frowned and thought for a long time, but still couldn't quite understand. However, that's all in the future. Right now, Chinjila's situation isn't really suitable for going to school alone. Fortunately, he's willing to go hunting in the mountains with me, which also expands the area where he can be active a bit. I made him a smaller bow and arrow, not very powerful, at most capable of hunting a small rabbit. Chinjila liked it very much and eagerly drew the bow. The arrow jumped in the air and then fell straight down in front of him. He eagerly picked it up again. There's almost no one going up the mountain at night, and with me watching from the side, there's no need to worry about hurting anyone. At that moment, a comment popped up on the screen. Never make a vow, or you'll end up eating your words. I didn't understand at first, but soon, reality taught me the meaning of those words. 13. A scream from the bushes snapped my attention back. Chinjila, what did you do? I swear, that was the most excited and fluent sentence he's ever spoken so far. I shot him in the butt. What? How could he cause such a big mess? I craned my neck to see, but the night was too dark, and the person was lying face down, so I couldn't make out who it was. I had no choice but to turn my head and ask Chinjila, whose butt did you hit? He became even more excited. My dad's. After saying that, he took out another arrow, clearly intending to shoot again. I quickly stopped him, picked up the person, and ran. All right, stop causing trouble for me. Tonight is destined to be a sleepless night. There's no need to think about it. Chindafa will definitely come looking for trouble tomorrow. Sure enough, shortly after dawn, he was carried by a few people and knocked on my door. The door wasn't locked, and it swung open as soon as they pushed against it. In the courtyard, I sat on a bench, holding a large knife in each hand. I stood ready for battle. Chindafa covered his buttocks and pointed at Chinjila, shouting, Chinjipao, don't you dare shield this little wolf cub today. I'm going to finish him off. I find him ridiculous. You took my money and now you want to kill my child. Chindafa, has your brain been hit by a sow or something, or do you regret it? Planning to give the money back. Returning the money is impossible. Chindafa has already spent most of it. I bought a bicycle as soon as I got the money and showed it off in the village for a long time. Wang Zuhua shouted from the side. All right, don't say so much to her. These girls are short-sighted. We'll teach them a lesson today. After saying that, she rushed forward, and the knife in my hand was extended. No need to stand up, just reach out and slash. Wang Zuhua let out a cry as her arm was slashed, blood gushing out. The barrage instantly filled with a flurry of emoticons. Are you guys really fighting for real? All right, I've heard that the village used to use explosives in fights, and now I believe it. I think they're acting strange, with a bunch of strong men on the other side. If I don't get serious, even if I get killed, no one will seek justice for me. 14. With two large knives blocking in front of me, for a moment, no one could get close, but there are too many of them, And I can't hold out for much longer, so I took out my secret weapon, but before I could even start using it, the village chief came running over, panting heavily. "Sto, stop it, all of you." The man at the very end pushed the village chief aside and said impatiently, "Village chief, don't interfere. This woman has gone too far. We're going to teach her a lesson today. For them, being suppressed by a woman is a great disgrace. Usually, I work no worse than them, and I'm even better at hunting. If I can't win now, that's unacceptable. I wouldn't have the face to show myself if word got out." The village chief was getting on in years, but he had fought in wars when he was young, and when he got serious, he could be quite intimidating. Otherwise, how could he keep this village full of troublemakers in line? He raised his hand and slapped him, cursing, "Still think it's like the old days, do you? How many times have I told you, don't move or fight with knives, hurting people is illegal, and you'll go to jail. Do you want to get shot?" His voice was full of authority, and for a moment, everyone fell silent. The village chief rolled his eyes, glanced in my direction, and his face instantly twisted with rage. "Chinjitao, I told you not to keep hunting guns privately. Where did you get this thing?" I sheepishly touched my nose. Where did it come from? Naturally, I never handed it over in the first place. Despite my best efforts to hide the hunting rifle behind my back, it was mercilessly confiscated. Then everyone was subjected to criticism and education. 15. I listened to the village chief rambling on with his lecture. I let out a big yawn, holding Chinjila as I grew drowsy. By accident, I made eye contact with the burly man across from me, and both of us rolled our eyes impatiently, but unexpectedly, Chinjila was listening attentively and suddenly raised his hand to ask a question. "Killing is illegal, and you'll get shot for it, right?" The village chief nodded approvingly. "Well said." Gila has been listening attentively, but the next second, he couldn't bring himself to praise anymore, because he saw him pointing at Chindafa and shouting loudly, "Then I'll report him. He killed someone." Wow! Instantly, everyone was wide awake, their eyes wide open. "What? Someone died? Who died? Who killed someone? Did you kill someone? How long has he been dead?" "Just died." Finally, through Chinjila's identification, the remains of Meng Jiqing were actually discovered beneath the Chen family's doghouse. It turned out she never ran away. She was beaten to death by Chindafa, and Chinjila saw it in his sleep, enduring it for so long before finally breaking out. They are all ruthless people. When the educated youth in the village found out, they were all furious and demanded to call the police. Someone protested, "Do you have to go to jail for hitting your own wife?" A female educated youth spat in disgust and said bitterly, "Have you forgotten how you treated us when Meng, the educated youth, ran away?" They all say, "We educated youth are restless," looking at us with disdain, finding fault with everything we do. We were assigned the hardest and dirtiest jobs, not treated as human beings. "So it was you who harmed the person." "Just you wait, this isn't over." Other educated youths also chimed in, "Yes, we must seek justice for Comrade Meng. We came to the countryside to support construction, not to be mistreated." 16. The two sides argued noisily until the village chief finally made the decision, call the police. One was to give an explanation to the educated youths, and the other was to deter the villagers. In recent years of legal education, few have taken it to heart, but this time, everyone is scared. Oh dear, they really are going to execute by firing squad. It's over, we can't even hit our own wives anymore. There's no justice. Oh, we can handle it ourselves, no need to bother the police. In the end, both Chindafa and Wang Cuehua were arrested, because she was also a murderer, an accomplice. These are things the bullet comments don't know. When the couple was executed, Chinjila held Meng Jiqing's ashes and cried incessantly, "Mother, I have avenged you." With the obsession in his heart finally released, Chinjila also called out to me for the first time, "Mother, let's go home." Because of this matter, the villagers subtly began to exclude us. So, a few years later, as policies changed following the guidance from the bullet comments, we left the village and headed south to start a business, officially breaking away from this place. The so-called village massacre tragedy naturally never occurred. Today is the day I moved into my new home, and I cooked a lot of dishes: braised chicken with soy sauce, braised pork ribs, oil-braised prawns, cola chicken wings, milk tea. All the dishes were taught to me by the bullet comments. "I'll just have a little bit, 2 prawns, 1 rib, thank you, Mom." Mouse holding a bowl. JPG, "I want some too, I want some too. 2 chicken wings, hee." Chinjila was also very happy to see so many dishes when he came back from school. He's at an age where he's growing, so he eats a lot. He was just a bit puzzled by the extra bowl and chopsticks on the table. Who are these for? A group of lovely older brothers and sisters. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.